Maybe two.
How you doing? Thank you for sticking around for the rest of the day. We're going to get started on our conversation about Parks and Rec. So if you are a part of that conversation, either serving on a board, if you're staff, please come up to the table. Just because there's some new people. I'm just going to kind of explain how we've been using this. Is we kind of our design team will ask you questions. We'll ask you questions. I'm not sure we have something prepared specifically for this one, but it's more just about learning from you guys. Again, we're trying to learn as much as we can while we're here, and we're here till Friday. So the kind of my audience here, they just like we did with the last. If you're asked things, you know, like you can chime in with that, but we're kind of trying to keep it as a public meeting and then kind of technical comments for right now. If you have any ideas, and I know especially when it comes to things like green space and things that we do in our free time, those tend to pop up. Please leave them on one of the boards. We'll sort out which theme they might go in. Or if something today has really inspired you, or you want to share a challenge with us, leave it on the board. If you didn't get a chance to say it out loud, we've taken a lot of information in. So, but like I said, we're here for big ideas. The crazier, the better. So I'm going to take that over to Tom or David, one of the two, leading this. I think.
Yeah. Okay. Well, since this is Park and Recreations, I think David should jump in. There's David. David is a landscape architect.
Thank you, Tom.
Yeah. And I do a lot of, we basically do the same thing. And so who do we have? We'll start off with introductions, right? And now, are these the first time for some of you all? The first meeting? Have y'all been here?
I don't get
Okay. Some people have been here all day. Okay. But this is your first? Yeah. Okay. Good. All right, Dave, why don't you say, David, okay. You can, okay, I'm just gonna say a hello, who I am, and then David can do a longer introduction. And then we can start our discussion with you, because you're all the experts. So my name's Tom, and I'm an architect and planner, and we're kind of co-leading the design charrette here. We've been doing this a lot. And obviously parks and recreation and open space, and quality places and how it all connects with trails and that type of thing is a very important part of the culture of this community. So it's really important to hear from you all what's going on. And so looking forward to that.
Okay. My name's Fred Fold, and you got pretty much Sean, our recreation director, just got out. He's been on our staff for a good while, and he's responsible for our rec programs here. These other ladies are on the recreation committee.
Okay.
And just to tell you a little bit about myself, I've been on the recreation committee since 1981. I know, I look like it, I got more hair than hair. But it's only because we live in a town where there's just a few of us to go around. And so we have to do different things when it comes to volunteering and doing things with the town. And there are other people in this room that have served on the committee too. But recreation is the only thing we have to sell on Beech Mountain. We don't have any smokestack industries here, but it's the only thing we want to sell is the natural beauty of our mountain, and everything we do leans in that direction. We like to use what nature has provided us with on Beech Mountain to utilize it, whether it's the day camp going out and finding salamanders in the creek, or whether it's going out and identifying trees we have on Beech Mountain with a hike from here. So I've set it up.
I'm sure you'll say some.
Never.
Okay. David,
But thank you for coming, and these all great people here that provide time, helping make decisions.
Well, good. Each of y'all should introduce yourselves.
Go for it.
I'm Kathy Bubash. I'm just a member of the committee.
What brought you to the committee?
That was my field of study was outdoor
Ah,
recreation years ago, and now that I'm retired, I can actually do this.
What was your field? Was it
Outdoor recreation.
like outdoor recreation?
I'm Barbara Piquet, and I've been on the rec committee since I've lived here full-time in 1992. And before that, part-time, back to 76.
How often do y'all get together?
Once a month.
Tomorrow, come to the meeting, 8:30.
We're gonna miss part of this meeting.
Yeah. We're supposed to meet once a month, and in slower times, we do it every quarter or every two, depending on what we have to deal with, but,
And if we can get here.
yeah.
Well, I'm Carol Beckman, and I've been on this committee, this is my third year, I guess, third year committee. And I am not, I'm a merchandiser slash buyer for clothing, but I have always been in recreation. I play all outdoor sports, always have, and that's where I belong.
Pickleball?
No.
Tried.
Wow, I did try, I tried.
I'm a tennis player.
Oh, okay.
I play with the harder
Real rap.
yellow.
My wife,
Real racquetball.
my wife went to the
And a
dark
tennis
side. She went to the dark side.
Excuse me?
She went to the dark side. She's a big pickleball fan.
I do play pickleball when I get my arm twisted.
Well, she was a 5 tennis player. But now she's like,
I bet she's, my sister was
She
saying,
likes-
yep, yeah, a little bit.
she likes to win. And pickleball lets her win.
I feel like I'm playing too, that's okay. And I love this committee and everything that our department does, and we always wanna keep green space, and always wanna keep places for a game to pop up somewhere.
Great. Yeah. Sean, wanna introduce yourself?
Yes, I'm Sean Royal, Director of Parks and Recreation. I've been with the town for 11 years and 10 years as director. So I've had the privilege of working with all of these fine folks and several others in the crowd. I think our department, we just have a great staff. All this, everything we do, we eat, live, breathe recreation. And when we leave here, we typically all go and do our own recreation thing. So I think we have a very cohesive team, and yeah, so we've tried different programs over the years. We've revitalized old programs and tried them. I think we do a lot as a department. We have 5 outdoor full-time staff that work on the trails, parks. They build trails, maintain them. So I think we're one of the only places that leaf blow all the trails. So you come to a public trail system and it's very clean in the fall, which is unique. We had a tent campground that we built about 4 or 5 years ago, having to rebuild now. And but we have kayaks, canoes that we ran out, 27 plus miles of trails, 14 parks, sled hill, that again, the outdoor crew, they make snow on, they groom it, and keep that running. It's a free sled hill, and that's a huge part of this department. We also have a personal trainer, a lot of fitness classes, of course, the facility that you're sitting in. So I think we stay busy for a small group, but we get it all done. And we also do the landscaping for the town. We do the Christmas lights for the town. And I joke with our town manager, I say, well, you always come to me for projects because you know we want to finish it. So, but yeah, I think. And farmers market too, yeah, that's a new one that's started.
And the
this is
Christmas holiday market.
holiday market.
Classes.
So Kate, you get to sit up at
Yeah.
the table too.
Okay.
But so one of our, as I said, fine staff. Kate and I have worked together for a very long time. I see her more than my wife. But we get along great, and I think that's why this team has done as much as we have over the years. Is that relationship we all have together. So it's pretty unique. I think we've all worked in different roles, and we're like jive differently, but we're really strong. So I'm happy to work with all these people. Your turn.
Hello. Happy to see everybody. What are we talking about?
Yourself.
Yourself. Hello, my name is Kate Prisco. Worked for the Town of Beech Mountain for a long time now. I think almost 10 years.
Wow,
Yeah.
wow.
I think it is.
Yeah. Jumped up here to be a ski bum and then never left. So it's been a blast. Done a little bit of everything. Dealt with a lot of different entities on the mountain, and still enjoy them all. So.
Great. Michael, you wanna read it?
I have connections, Michael Hall, building inspector, I was on rec committee until I had to be kicked off because I became a town employee.
Okay.
But still help a lot in recreation, and even when I was a kid, was out building trails and, doing all sorts of stuff. We do a race series up here now in the summertime, and, work on a park up towards the town center too.
Great. I'm David Hill. I'm sure most of you have already met me in the last couple of days. And you know, we worked for so many towns, do a lot of park and rec master plans, things like that. But I don't think I've ever worked for a town that had, 680 full-time residents that had such a great, you know, even to have a committee is a big deal for a smaller town, and to have committee and staff and a rec center like this and 17 miles of trails is phenomenal what you guys get done with a very small population of staff. And so, you know, as we take on the part of building, you know, what a downtown might be, Bob reminded us the other day, he said, I know you guys draw that 5-minute walking circle, but that can't be the boundary. Everything's gotta be connected. And that was a very good point. And then I think he drilled down a little bit more and he said, for example, trails, you know, you can't just draw a trail at the end of that circle and never connect it, because there's a lot of connectivity that has to happen through this plan. And I know you've tried in various times, I know, Sean, you've already kind of showed us bits and pieces of trails that you'd like to connect. And we've also heard of, sort of the history, going back to the 1960s, of how, you know, there have been better connections in the past that might have gotten interrupted, and we like, maybe there's a way to figure out how to do that, put it back. And then we've learned, you know, as it ends up, there's a lot of recreational things right in those publicly owned lands, right in the area where we're thinking about downtown. Sledding Hill, everybody says Sledding Hill is a super important resource, and I've heard some numbers that were astounding, like 1,500 people a day that can sometimes
It's unbelievable.
playing on the Sledding Hill so much.
You don't wanna get in the way.
Then we get away, and I've heard it's so successful that one of the local entrepreneurs developed a hot chocolate trailer. I've never heard of a hot chocolate trailer. Hot chocolate truck, and it's at the bottom of the hill. And you know, so you've got some really unique things like that maybe nobody else has that are important. We've also seen playground, dog park, there's a little memorial park, all on the top of the hill. Plus, you know, recreation resource like this at the bottom of the hill. And so anyway, what we were wondering, I guess, is, I guess I'll just start with one question. It'll, I'm sure, lead to other stuff, but, so right now, is there any kind of Parks and Rec master plan that you all have, or trying to gradually implement? This is own document or anything like that?
Well, I do have a plan, yes, and it was, updated in, I wanna say maybe 2017,
Okay,
17 or 18.
that'd be great to get our hands on that,
Yeah.
yeah, cause that guides us up to the last 7 or so years. It's pretty up to date for a Parks and Rec master plan. But, and so you don't have to go back and, you know, tell me all that, I can just get my hands on that. But if there's stuff that's changed since then, then let me know.
There was the one ASU did for us back, how many years ago, Fred?
Now, that was the economic impact study of the
Yeah.
system.
There was one that the town sent out to the residents of what you were looking for.
Well, that was back in the early 80s, and shortly after we became.
We did one in maybe 2012 or
Yeah,
something
you
like
might
that.
Yeah. Exactly, me too.
There was two of those.
Okay.
Okay.
So, Sean, that could be helpful, you know.
Yeah, I don't have the survey, that was an ASU class, I do have a master plan though.
Okay, that'd be great, yeah. So anyway, in the master plan, are there any highlights, just wanna mention here that we ought to be paying attention to as we think about the downtown?
You know, without diving into it, I can't remember some things that was in it. We,
We made a trail from the Pinnacle, that came,
you know, the discussion of making a trail system from the top mountain to the bottom has always been
That might be
discussed.
right there.
And,
Is that it right up here behind you?
yeah, that's right.
This is the trails map. But we also have one that, we've got a base.
Oh, yeah, and I believe, Sean, you might have been working all day with Jonah marking up a map of where that is and bits and pieces that need to be completed, okay. And so, it's interesting to me, when somebody said a trail from the top to here, it sure sounds like it'd be fun to come down, but only the marathoners could ever go back up.
there've been several of them.
Okay, cool.
We've had competition, you get a t-shirt, you get a t-shirt where you left here, and when you got to Fred's store at the top, you called in, and you got a t-shirt.
Wow,
I mean,
okay.
that's just like a competition.
So
Susan
lot.
Shane and Ron Sims come to mind.
Yes.
Two people that have
Well,
completed
I did it.
Well, we did it. Not easy.
Well, okay, so that kind of, so do you all actually run a series of events like that, you know? Somebody was telling me you have another, there's some type of race that you have here. Is there a serious slate of events that you all run?
Yes, so, I think our third summer for Run the Beach. I guess it started when Michael was maybe 4 years old and out here running and crushing everybody. He was the original winner of the Cool Five.
Second
The
winner.
second, okay. So,
There's a year before.
it was way before me, but Cool Five.
That was 2008 was
Yeah,
when
the
it
first
first
started.
big, the first
Very
big
large.
event that we ever had.
Yeah, there's a really large fundraiser event.
Okay.
And, you know, no pun intended, but it sort of ran its course. So after we kind of wrapped up things with Cool Five, we did a beer run, then we did a mud run. We had obstacles in the woods and had to bring the fire truck in because it actually was dry. It's mud. And then Kate and Michael and a private just resident, they started Run the Beach a few years ago and it's been very successful, a series of 4 races. Everybody comes out to, you know, just either run or pay the fee and get a nice meal.
Okay.
So, you know, there's something unique about it. Each run is at a different location, but also is, you can get food afterwards, get a drink, and then, yeah, just hang around with friends. So it's,
And the food and drink comes from local businesses, those are the keys we're looking at, so, you know, show off local businesses like Brick Oven, Fred's. Mr. River Coffee Shop sponsoring one of the races, so, real estate offices, really, everything up there, 'cause we're trying to show off the mountain.
Okay. Yeah, it seems like that's a great way to do it. So,
We started, your folks,
yeah.
y'all started this map, it's basically the town map with the aerial, and in kind of light blue, were the kind of foundation trails. And I think one of the staff has been working with some of you, I guess maybe you or someone. Yeah, John has been working with them, because there's some other ones that are on here, so we're adding. And we also hear the little pocket parks, somebody was telling us about little pocket parks that are dotted around. You wanna know where those are? And then, and then where the missing connections are, all that stuff will start emerging. And how we can
Colleen owns
further.
a few of them.
Pardon me?
Colleen owns a few of them.
Hurricane,
Yeah.
Helene.
Oh, Everly, yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
So, yeah, we learned later that the blue marks on the map are some of the trails, which are, I believe these are more like, serious mountain biking trails, right?
it's all hiking.
Okay.
And so we do have some that are just hike-only trails and then some that are dual use.
Okay.
And then some of the trails that's listed at the top were the streetscape. On the streetscape, goes in front of the Bricko into Town Hall, by the sled hill, and then comes down towards Glen Park, and that's where in the wintertime, we have our trail of lights, so it's kind of a nice little thing for people to either nice hot chocolate or whatever else to drink up and down the way. There's some restaurants there and a pub and then that's about it, but, at the moment, we're,
No showing on the, some trails.
oh, yeah.
Yeah, snowshoeing on
Snowshoeing,
yeah.
cross-country skiing. We used to rent snowshoes here, but we found everybody who wanted to take out snowshoes had a hard time getting down here in a hot Odyssey. You gotta have a lot of snow for a snowshoe and you
Yeah.
need four-wheel drive. They just don't have it, but, yeah, looking to expand our trail system, so currently, speaking to some of the landowners about the possibility of doing that. We've got some other land that we're actually rebuilding and building new trails on now, and we're out back, we're building more trails in that area and fixing what we have, so. We know what we have, we just gotta keep it up and maintain. People hiking, so we did a study, it was, 2018, no, it was 2021. ASU came in with the business department, or economics department, and, they did an economic impact study of our trails to see what kind of dollars actually come into the town, for people that are using the trails, and, so that study gave us a real, shine a light really on what our trails are, and, hiking was the number one.
Can you get us the top, that would be something good for
Aaron?
for Aaron.
Mhm.
Aaron?
Yeah.
Hey, Tom, can you just repeat that so you?
I've got the economic impact study from our trail system. It was done by the economics professor at ASU.
And a long time ago, there was one report, one that ASU did it, or we had it privately done, that asked what the major reason was they came to Beech Mountain. And, Parks, Recreation was the main reason for hiking and biking, that was the number one thing.
Not skiing?
Well, outdoor activities.
Okay.
Yeah, not skiing, this was not
Skiing
considering.
is seasonal, so hiking and biking are the other seasons.
But going back even further
All
back,
seasons, all seasons.
in the mid-80s, shortly after becoming a town, we sent out a survey to all the property owners on Beech Mountain and asked them to list what they wanted to see improved recreation-wise on beach. Well, we got a lot of little, somebody wanted a basketball court here, somebody wanted this, that, and the other. But the one that got the most, people wanted to be able to walk and enjoy Beech Mountain. And through hiking trails and even walking in their own neighborhoods. So, and since then, hiking and walking has become even more popular.
So, if you're looking at, say, Beech Mountain in comparison to other nearby towns, I would just guess you guys are just way ahead of anybody else as far as having all these trails. Are other towns nearby this aggressive on this kind of?
I would say, nearby our surrounding towns, Boone has a nice bike park, but as a public trails like this, no, I would say we're top. Now a trend that's just going on recreation is towns are building trails in their cities. It's just happening more and more and more, whether it's for biking or hiking, doesn't matter, it's, let's find an urban trail, or let's find, it's just a growing thing, but,
So we need to tell them that we are getting ready to be designated a trail town, North Carolina.
Oh, are you? You getting ready for
Yes.
this? Well, that's what I was
And
thinking
in the
about,
next
yeah.
few months,
Yeah.
and we've qualified in many, many ways for all the things that were necessary to do that. And so we'll be promoted through Travel NC, along with using all that, whatever else we can gain from it too. And we're one of the few mountain towns that has what we have to offer here with Sean's Trails that he maintains, and a lot of other towns, well, Blowing Rock is gonna be one, and I think they have one trail in the town called the Glen Burnie Trail, but they're using, as part of their deal, the trails on grandfathers. And other trails, whether it's Linville Gorge or something or other,
Oh, yeah.
theirs is kind of an area deal, but we're using strictly our own trail
Right.
to become, be
Just
qualified.
having apples to oranges.
Right,
It really
right.
is. I think of Damascus.
We could add those to ours too, just the same.
Yeah, you can claim those, right?
Yeah, you could.
Yeah, Damascus is Trail Town USA, right? They have the Appalachian Trail
Yeah.
and the Creeper Trail.
7 trails across there, there's more too.
Oh, okay.
Those are the 2 big ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Up in North Carolina that has 3 that crosses there.
Okay.
Overly Mountain, whatever they all are.
But what I love about this is these
And
are
the-
all
The
yours.
ones back and forth, north, east, across the street.
Another thing we have, we're part of the Mountain Heritage Troutwater Program.
Okay.
So this program ran through NC Wildlife, and it allows people to get a fishing license, for a very discounted price. So you can get a license for $5 for a 3-day license. Now there are other areas around us that have that, but, again, it's a little unique, and but you do have to have be on those designated waters, so Buckeye Creek is one of them. And,
And we have a loaner program for that too. I mean, we have the rods and the.
Oh, you have all equipment.
So actually, you can see Wildlife is in here today, getting ready to stop.
They're out there in the office,
Oh, in this building.
Kate's in charge
All right.
of untangling lines.
Then she gets mad and gives it to Jared.
That's great.
Really is.
And they even have fly fishing classes. I mean, talking about the fishing, Jared.
Really?
So,
There's no equine though, right?
No,
No.
There's none around here, it's too steep, right?
there is.
Oh, there is.
Oh, yeah?
And Moses Cone Park,
Big horse.
30 miles of carriage trails there. And they don't provide the
Blowing
horses,
Rock is a
but-
big.
Yeah, Blowing Rock, really
oh,
good.
that's what.
Well-
There's 2 horse shows there.
We got Cliff Elder back here, he can tell you about that.
Everybody fell off.
Okay.
They built a beautiful barn.
Let somebody else deal.
But it's a good point, near the town center
Maybe you need a
area.
merry-go-round.
And I wasn't around then, so there's other people in the room that can speak, but, there wasn't fun activities out there in that area.
Oh, at one point.
But I think
It was running.
wedding place used to be a stable, right?
Yeah.
Okay. But, yeah, it really is, it's be hard to find a lot of places for horses to really run and stuff, seems like.
We did a downtown plan for Camden, South Carolina.
That's right.
Yeah.
And a day stable, right?
Yeah. Tailgating, that was really fun.
But Camden, everybody has a horse. So, also, I guess, it doesn't seem like you have a lot of flat field kind of stuff, maybe because there's nowhere to put them, but, like soccer, baseball, stuff.
Right behind you.
Right behind you.
Only here, right, at the rec center, but, okay.
There's one down by Coffee Lake,
Okay,
basketball court.
okay.
For right now, there is.
Yes.
Underwater.
Yeah.
Is there any issue with any need to grow any of that, or?
I mean, at this time, we just don't have the clientele really.
The clubs do some of that too, right?
Carol?
We don't have any basketball courts.
Oh, I meant, you do
Oh,
have
yeah.
outdoor
We do.
sports.
We have an outdoor field that
Tennis.
is not even half, quarter the size of what we have here.
Okay.
We do have day camp, we do have swimming pool, outdoor swimming pool, pickleball courts and tennis.
And golf course.
Yeah, and golf course.
Yeah, great golf course, yeah.
And a long time ago, they did a survey, I mean, this was probably 30 years ago, and they were gonna put in pocket parks in and put basketball there, and the people came to the town council meeting, remember that, Fred? Up in arms, they didn't want it because it was gonna bring kids to their little block, and.
We were gonna steal the Michael Jordan tennis shoes they had, right? Left them on the picnic table.
So-
We put up with a
Okay,
lot.
I get it, alright. Yeah.
But remember, this is where Michael Jordan
Well,
was.
now we know.
Right.
What about pickleball courts, you know, it's a lot of noise with those things.
They have
That's
the
the
two
way they
tennis
don't mind.
courts, and
Right.
they do it indoors and outdoors down here, and it's very popular,
Oh, yeah, it's great.
much to my chagrin.
Well, we have, they converted basketball courts, pickleball courts in the village of Havisham, the one that's in Town of Beaufort. And, the neighbors next door made them put up sound walls on the fences. I've never seen them. Have you ever seen that before? It's like really thick vinyl. Oh, it's like, and of course, there's no wind, and down there, it's like you gotta have a
pretty competitive.
Oh, yeah.
To hoop and holler.
That's right. Anyway, so one of the things that you mentioned, the idea that urban trails are becoming more popular. And like I live in Charlotte, we have, you know, they were way behind in terms of their greenways, but they're catching up quickly, and now you can bike for miles, you can bike all the way to South Carolina. And I think a lot of people said, wow, I had no idea how amazing popular and effective the trails, you know, the trails for biking and walking are. And that's just happening all over the place. But there are also ways to think about it, and Rick Hall, who's just did the transportation meeting earlier, does talk about, different reasons for, you know, basically travel reasons. And two ways to think about it for walking trails, and he can explain this much better than I can, but there are two kinds. There's recreation walking, and then there's destination walking. And so when you have a lot of trails that are for recreation, it's usually a loop or something, or going in one direction, or you're going to nation. And then there are trails that actually take you in, you know, there's something at the end of it you want to do. Yeah.
Mountain, like they have Mountain to the Seas.
Oh, you
North
mean
Carolina
Carolina
has-
Trail.
North Carolina.
Yeah, I mean, that's in the big picture thing, going from the one side of the state
It
to the
goes
other.
from Jockey Ridge to.
Yeah, but also the idea that like, let's go for a hike, but we're gonna hike into the town center and have lunch, and then hike back home. Or instead of getting in my car today, I'm gonna run my errands by walking. And basically, I know that, you know, in our town center, if we do this right, it's the same thing as, you know, you can park one, so you can walk in and do all your stuff in one location and then head back. So there are things, walkability is not just so much for recreation, because a lot of suburban subdivisions, like in South Charlotte, you know, we walk all the time. Well, what do y'all do? We just, you know, put on our shoes and walk around the, you know, the streets. And then like where I live, which is in the old part, people walk, like I walk to the grocery store twice a week. You know, and that's where the greenway trails are. So there are other ways to do it, and I think you can do both, clearly. But the idea that, you know, if there's something at the end, you know, it makes, you know, it's even more compelling, you know, it gives you something to, you know, go for.
And Seth can address the fact that we have tried to have some trails similar to that we go into Charter Hills, and they've done several, but we've also started this Greenway Trail, started up, and he mentioned it comes across and, in front of my store and then down. We were fortunate, we got a grant from the state that allowed us to put in a little section of it. But we wanted to go from up above down to the, overlook part where it was in the curve.
Yeah, we stopped there
But
yesterday.
we didn't have much, help with property owners that we needed right of ways from. And the plan was eventually to be able to go all the way to the ski slope. But one of the things on that trail, that we run up against is a lot of steep up and down here. Yeah. And unfortunately, not everybody's an Olympic athlete, so that deters a little bit of, but Brooks can kind of address, he's always had this idea to use the, big power line we have that the TVA put in a long time ago, but it goes interestingly across down the backside, and at one time, we were hoping maybe we'd be able to have a trail that would start here and end up on the Appalachian Trail. Brooks, tell them.
Sometimes Fred expands my stuff, but no, this is a 100-foot right of way under the power lines,
Yeah.
and we had thought that it would be, it could be usable since it can't be used for anything but that power line.
Yeah.
Or a paved trail that you could have strollers on or whatever, and then the mountain bike trail and other things. And it
But
goes
connected
into-
with the Appalachian Trail is not
It goes into Eagles.
unbelievable,
And it keeps
because
going.
Yeah.
we are close where it crosses in the,
Right.
down in
But
Tennessee
it's
line.
probably another dream like the trail that's gonna go from Boone to West Jefferson. It's gonna take, it would take a long time with a lot of property owners.
Yeah.
Is it,
Just keep working away at it.
Yeah.
is that
Eventually that'll happen.
CPNL or Duke Power, who's your?
TVA.
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 Oh,
Mountain
TVA?
Electric.
Well, the
Well,
power
Mountain
line,
Electric.
the power line is TVA.
TVA.
Wow.
Mountain Electric is our power company.
Okay. Well, yeah, okay, cool.
But we've got probably a mile, I think, that's
That's part
not
of
into
the-
the high end of Eagle's Nest, it's in undeveloped land.
You mean on the power line?
Yeah,
There is, I mean, a little bit,
seems like I've heard of the figure of a mile, out and back,
yeah.
2 miles, and it's 100 feet wide, so you could do a variety of things. But thing and two, like over in Boone, they've got trails that, you'll see the strollers and the bikes with the
Yeah.
helper wheels and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, more like, that's more like downtown kind of trail.
It's a greenway, right?
It's a greenway.
They have a greenway on App State property and Town of Beech property, about 5 miles of paved trail, and some cross-country trails. up
You
the
see
roads.
everybody
But,
doing
yeah.
anything.
They have intramural fields out there.
And it's got
Right.
connected to Blowing Rock now.
Well,
They've
it's already,
It's
already pretty much
middle
done.
for green.
Wow.
Middle Fork, it's called.
That's about a 6-mile connected
Yeah.
trail.
It's only 1 mile
You
to
hike the
18.
top of the.
No,
of
it's
the
about
beach.
8.
You can, but that's on private
Yeah, it's still pretty
land,
close.
Land of Oz folks own that. And it used to, when the Land of Oz was going, that was part of the attraction. That's the pinnacle of Beech Mountain.
Right.
That's where 5506 point is,
Little plaque.
up there.
Yeah.
There's the Coast and Geodetic survey marker.
But is that
But it's
possible
kind of off limits now.
because of the private ownership?
Yeah, exactly.
But you can go the road with the houses on it, you can't go up there, is that a public street?
Yeah, within the land, where, yeah, it is.
Is there a place at the top y'all could do something?
Everything's private, you know, lots that have
I
been
mean,
sold.
where the street ends, within your right of way?
But it's actually a circle, kinda, like it goes around, you get up, and it's also the top of the ski slope, the top of the lift is up there too, in the general area.
And there's a crazy lady up there, she watches it all.
Yes,
There's a crazy lady up there, she watches it all.
She lives there.
She'll get you for trespassing.
Yeah.
So the only police record.
So Monday night, we were looking at an old map, and it had Sledding Hill next to Town Hall, and it had, or New Town Hall, and it had Kite Flying Field was on the map next, or where the current Sledding Hill is, right? And so, you know, is there, what happened to the kite flying field, I guess?
It's actually the
Double
overflow
use.
parking.
There you go, okay. So, okay, so is there any interest in keeping kite flying as part of it?
They have an event every year,
Okay.
Labor Day weekend?
Labor Day weekend, and now I think, is it Avery Chamber or Banner Chamber? Avery Chamber will take that event over.
Okay,
And, but it's very well attended.
okay. And it's right there in the overflow parking lot. Yeah, it's for the wind to launch that kite, okay.
Do people park there while they're flying their kites, or they park somewhere else?
They have to park in our parking, there's nowhere there because everybody, kids are running around, you can't really bring cars in.
Close by.
Yeah, very close by, walking distance.
Just keep doing it.
There's a public parking up there right by
Oh,
the
yeah,
Sledding
yeah,
Hill,
yeah.
and then
Next to,
along-
the
along
Austin
the-
District.
and
Yeah.
along
You gotta go and
the-
get
And you just park down on the street.
Elderberry Ridge
There's
Road going.
parking lot up at Sled Hill that we're at yesterday, it's 200 spots.
So where do you fly kites, in Sledding?
No, in the grass, yeah, Sled Hill is adjacent.
Okay. I thought you were using the parking lot.
That's really, they've got the big huge kites and it's for the.
That field kinda next to the Sled Hill, that we're looking at between Elderberry Road.
Yeah, and
That's really the path.
Gotcha. And so in August, it's probably all grass, it's
Yeah, that's
recovered
all-
from the mud of the
Yeah.
winter,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And back in the day, there was no fence there for the Sled Hill, there was no parking up there,
It's
it
just
was a
all
large
open.
open field,
Oh, sure,
the meadows.
okay, cool.
Are there any community gardens here? Y'all do that, is that part of y'all's
The deer eat everything.
Do you have one?
No, the deer.
Not a
eat
garden, but I wanted to say,
It's deer.
in the fall, there used to be a group that came out to Overlook Barn to watch broadtail hawks fly over when they migrate. Birding, yeah. And I don't know where that group went to, I know where the birds went, but.
They still come by?
Doesn't grandfather have that?
The grandfather.
They still do,
The
yeah.
grandfather
Grandfather
still
does
does
it also, but there was a bunch of birds that came over the beach.
But they don't come over anymore?
Yeah, they still
They
do.
still do.
There's certain-
Society here for an event, a few different.
Okay, well, tell them, this site where we're, not that where we're sitting, but around the rec center is an Audubon designated bird watching site in the state of North Carolina.
Great.
And we don't do much with it.
We saw a bald eagle yesterday.
Down at,
Down in Coffee, yeah, he's living down there.
well, we got, he also, Sean will tell you, we have a kids fishing tournament. And last year or so, 25 kids were around the lake fishing their hearts out. And that old eagle came down, dove down in the middle, got a fish and took off. Right in the middle of the tournament.
Show.
Yeah.
Took a fishing
Chickens
reel
did.
with it.
Right.
And then wouldn't bite after that, I guess.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
Birding is a huge industry, I know. There's things like, y'all have done, y'all have experienced a lot of stuff, and then, it kind of it's trendy, and then it kind of fizzles out, and then, it comes back. It's a big deal. Everybody, you have the $3,000 binoculars, how many people have pairs of those?
We got a pair in.
You got a pair, yeah. That's standard issue, you have to have one for.
We borrowed it, no.
Yeah, you check it out like the fishing rod.
They did, they have, well, and they have those little, what do you call those little box, the little thing over there, you can get a kid, and you can. Geocaching?
Geocaching, we've had that.
Geocaching is here, and kids can really have a lot of good stuff to do around here. They should get that backpack and.
Yeah, I think
Nature stuff in it.
we saw those one day, that's fantastic.
It's not really, it's kind of on the same topic as birding, but people can't go out there and do it as much, but there's a, state-owned land just off the backside of Beach, that has Virginia big-eared bat. So there's some
Okay.
bats up here as well,
We keep them there.
yeah.
Let's
There's
tell
actually
them
private-
about the bog.
Oh, yeah, no, moving up from where the bats are, Fred, you tell them about it, wow, you're the expert.
Well, I just happen to be in the way. But, part of Carolina Caribbean's property included a 12-million-year-old sphagnum peat bog that I'm sure Carolina Caribbean didn't know what they had. But somewhere it's at the end of Sawmill Branch Road, and somewhere along the line, the state all of a sudden got wind of it, and they put it on their top 10 list of property they wanted to acquire. It's under 200 acres, but it's a prime example of a northern hardwood forest. The trees that exist within it, and even some of the animals. Sawweed owl for one, and there are bog turtles in the bog area. And anyhow, state of North Carolina sometimes can't move fast enough to acquire land before something happens to it. Well, we have, Blue Ridge Conservancy here in our area, it's a land trust. And so they got wind, and they stepped in and got a bridge loan and bought the property when it became up for sale by one of H. Ross Perot's friends. And it had been bought sight unseen by this man in Texas. And it had been piece auctioned off by Carolina Caribbean. So anyhow, it's now a state wild and natural area.
Is it a nature conservancy now?
Let me tell you, the only thing that exists is a sign out on Shawnee Hall Road saying something on the state park. It's a little, maybe 3 by a foot and a half. And they don't ever plan on putting a bathroom or a picnic table there. They wanna keep it like it is.
Yeah. They don't want
But
that, yeah.
there is a trail left over an old logging road that goes through the middle of it. And you can hike down to this bog, and there have been times that we sort of pushed it a lot, but right now it's not been. And, we would take hiking trips down there and everything, and we don't really.
Didn't the state park system say we couldn't do that now?
Yeah, we have to fill out a permit.
We have to fill out a permit
Yeah.
to get to do it now.
Are there big trees down there or something, or what?
Well, there are a lot of tall,
Like cypress or what?
no, they're, oaks and
Okay.
and
Not so
hemlocks and,
Okay.
But there's a lot of water, really, when you get down to it.
yeah, it's just a wet
One of the
bog,
highest
yeah.
bogs on the east coast, I believe. In
Yeah,
elevations, it's like where we were yesterday, almost 5,000 feet there.
What's the bog by Wilson King's house? There's a bog there, here's a sign on it.
It's more of a
It says-
spring.
It's a spring, he just
It's
wants
a
to
wet
call it a
spot.
bog.
Yeah, it's more of a.
He just calls it a bog.
yeah.
I walked down there.
Right. Well, so if we're thinking about, this area of public land, I know we've got I guess we have a playground up there already, dog park is there, and I believe, there's a little memorial, I believe there's a memorial, was it
Fireman's Memorial.
Fireman's?
And Michael Holland's the one that designed it and built it.
Okay, awesome, okay. And, is there any need up there at the top of the mountain that you think we could serve if we were thinking about a land plan for that area that's not being met?
We've talked before about a recreation or a fitness center.
So you don't have to come all the way down here, that's another one, right?
We think it could be used more, but
Okay.
we don't ever wanna give this up, those of us that love it.
Somebody talked about putting pickleball where the recycling center was.
Above that fireman's,
Yeah,
the
above the
flat area there. And part of the reason we got parking quorum with the parking lot, that paved part, and then there's a bathroom a little further at the top of Slidden Hill, so if they were
Oh, yeah.
tough players, they could walk from their car to the parking lot and play pickleball, and then if they needed to use the restroom, they could walk through the parking lot to the Slidden Hill.
We heard, yeah, we heard a lot about that.
Or across the street, yeah.
We did go.
Hey, go to Fred.
So,
It's-
so you think about second,
Bathrooms
maybe a
everywhere.
second recreation, so not nearly this big.
Right,
this-
so
Well,
that's what we-
okay.
we jumped it out.
Okay.
Sean and I will tell you that where the old public works is,
Right.
and those buildings, we had talked about the building we have now, that's down by Lake Coffee is gonna be gone, and that's a service area for all the rec stuff. Tell them, Sean,
Yeah,
about the building.
so there are some plans, when the two lakes are joined, obviously, we're gonna lose that building, but, so John Merritt is working on a design and new building that actually just be kind of across the ridge from us here. But one of the things that I've mentioned to him, both as he's designing that building and then anybody who's talking about on top of the mountain, come Sled Hill season, I have to have a way of keeping the snow guns inside when they're not being used. We gotta keep them warm, and right now we house them in the old public works.
Oh, yeah.
So, I don't need a large space, but I've gotta have space to put those guns in, and we have 3 different guns.
Okay.
And not a normal garage, it's gonna hold them.
Okay.
So, we have that, the sled hill pads that we store in the summertime, now that, John's building an area, so we can bring them down here and store them inside this new facility, but, so it's being worked on, at the same time, yeah, gotta have a way to keep that equipment on top.
And going against the grain with your all's ideas,
A little
we
bit,
had hoped that area where old public works has been could be utilized somehow for recreation, building a facility there, perhaps, being right there, and, it's, right in the middle of things. And we gotta remember, we got the Pinnacle Inn, which can walk down to us through the, dog park, and that's full a lot of times with weddings going on or ski season or whatever, but, and it's, the whole skiway section is fairly well populated as far as people being able to get to it. But anyhow, maybe we're giving you too many ideas, I'll shut up.
This is great.
Yeah, we need more. Bring 'em on. So
Well, no, we're just mentioning things that our pipe dreams maybe.
I mean, you were thinking of more than anything, using the same building as your.
Right,
So,
absolutely.
and this whole thing is talking about creating all encompassing, you know, so we could have that. as
Yeah,
well as
I
fitness,
mean,
as
if
well
we
as,
were to have a building, have a storage there for that, and then,
you know,
fitness.
massage,
Yeah.
massage, sauna, all those things that we don't have, you know,
Oh.
the town doesn't have. Personal,
That would be more of an urban recreation center, it's not like I was staying on doing a big parking lot out in front, that kind of stuff, this would be something that would be embedded in like a block and street system.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, could be great for
Yeah.
something or something.
Yeah, parking nearby, or whatever,
you know, and it could be part of
Shared
town
parking.
or,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So would it be,
like to see.
you know, your population is so unique, would it be just for residents, or would it be, you know, all the people staying in all the hotels?
Well, for us, it's public, so yeah.
They're welcome to.
And
They're
then,
welcome
yeah,
here,
so I mean,
too.
selfishly, I wouldn't want
Yeah.
a private company come in and, hey, we've got a fitness area. I'd rather have it through us, and that way, you know, we can say.
Oh, yeah.
You know, people have a membership here, that people, or you can have a day pass, the same thing there, and then we.
Okay.
Through the years with different things, we've hoped everybody would be able to use it. Now, the club is private and that's membership, but the rest of the mountain is kind of open for everybody.
Right, so when I hear like massage sauna, that, you know, that's all 10,000 guests as well as the 680 residents, okay?
Well, it's 680 residents, but remember, in the summertime, we have pretty much, most of our houses are full with summer residents who
Right.
own their homes, they are still residents
residents,
here.
right.
They consider them, and they are. I
Right.
mean, I was that person for a good long time in my life.
Okay, so that'll, what I'm, yeah, just glad, because that'll help the market for that.
And the same with winter, you know, and they're different people.
Okay.
Some
So,
people say there are 5,000 people a weekend on Beech Mountain. Do you believe that?
Yes.
I think you're talking about some cars.
Yeah.
each person.
No, but we do have a big wintertime population.
Very big.
Yeah,
If you
So-
go into a restaurant, if you go into the brick oven in the winter and you go in the brick oven in the summer, it's packed in the winter. Because they're all inside, they're not outside, maybe that's why.
okay, is there anything else?
Another thing up top,
Yeah.
we talked about before, with the history museum, there's some sort of history walking trail, which in the downtown district.
We have a driving one.
Well, I'm saying like an actual walking where you start back at Carolina Caribbean, and work your way to that.
Oh, neat, yeah, okay.
Does the history museum, or is that
We
some-
rent from Fred. I'm on the board there.
Okay.
We're open holiday, Christmas, MLK, and President's Day weekend. And then we're open from mid-June till Woolly Worm weekend. And we're open on Thursdays through Saturday. From, when are we open from? Wonderful.
If it was more in a traffic pattern area, we would have it in
It's our version of Woolly
Woolly
Worm.
Worm. Yeah, what's Willie Worm?
Woolly Worm is the big.
Did you see the look?
It's a worm festival. It's been the biggest festival.
You better get with
I know, that's.
I think it's like 20,000.
Only wanted to tell you what the winter's gonna be like.
Oh, it's just the black and brown,
Yeah.
they have a special festival?
Yeah.
Right, right.
And this is the biggest winner ever. What's the figure of fans going
So
Woolly
is
Worm?
it like Punxsutawney Phil where the mayor looks
Yeah.
for a word?
They raise it up straight.
But these Woolly Worms get to go home.
Yeah, yeah. To somebody.
Bill goes every day.
And we're trying to talk the lightning bugs into coming here. We hadn't figured out how to do that yet, you know,
But they're so cool
the
to
deal.
see.
Yeah.
But you need to probably stop
They're
at
on
the
the
Historical
grandfather.
Museum
Oh, we
over
will.
here. We're not open But we'll make a point to open up and take you in there if
Yeah.
you want.
Well, the fellow with the movies.
Yeah, I think Joe.
Yeah, Brooks said he'd get you in.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah, Brooks.
Don't tell.
Don't tell Pat.
Yeah.
It's not, I mean, we'll come up there and meet you, I mean, it's not a problem.
How much by the time we get
We're there.
You really should go there.
Oh, we'd love to. Yeah, well, every time we go.
People have
We're afraid
fully
not to.
worn sweaters
That's
out
good.
So yeah, they sell t-shirts.
I'll bring you my little one.
The museum will give you an idea of the one room that has like from Carolina Caribbean, when skiing started, we go way back pre-Carolina Caribbean, so there's like two rooms that it'll show you. We feature different events, I mean, different organizations on the market, on the mountain. We've done the fire department and just show different things that are happening on the mountain.
Music, medicine.
Yes.
You had the Ray Hicks son, was that last
We have the
year,
Ray
2
Hicks.
years ago?
Yeah, we got to put the, designated sign.
Ray Hicks was a famous storyteller. He did everything from the Smithsonian to everywhere else.
And then say we have everybody comes in there to see, the Land of Oz. I mean, there are so many Aussies that you just don't believe. Call
That works.
Swifties.
Swifties, right?
I shouldn't have said that. But I'm amazed that there's too many.
And it wasn't Ozzy and Harriet.
So, I mean, David, I think you're hearing that there's a lot of history here, and I think, well, Fred and Barbara both, knowing them, they've given me a lot of stuff. Every time I see Fred, weekly, he's got a new story. And this area was really big with logging.
Yeah.
So we have some trails, and there's markers on it, I think, if I'm saying this wrong, Fred, stop me, but, Buckeye Lake is the original homestead for Beech Mountain, I mean,
That's where the logging operation was, where our lake is now.
Okay.
I mean, somebody even picked up a piece of coal down there on the, what's the trail down here, Falls Trail?
Falls Trail.
Well, that makes sense. Some matchsticks is cool.
But, you know, like the trail went from here all the way up to where Fred's property is. And that's how Pond Creek Trail, Upper Pond Creek Trail.
It was a logging railroad.
Okay.
The railroad actually come up?
Yes.
Well, the
Logging.
railroad, a narrow gauge deal came to our pond here, our lake, and it went down Buckeye Creek and connected up and ended up over in Hampton, Tennessee, in that area, where they had a big band mill. But logging railroads kinda took off and they'd lay track up mountains and they used Shay locomotives,
We have
which
pictures
were
of it.
gear driven, that allowed them to go on steeper grades. And so they went all over this mountain. And you could at one time find rails, railroad ties, and spikes. And so that was an interesting
What was the time period for that?
late 20s.
The late 20s to about 1931, there was a company out of Pennsylvania called Whiting Lumber Company.
Whiting lumber, yeah.
You'll find all that out at the museum.
I think, while we're on the topic of recreation history, what Fred and my dad talked about, the Tour de Pont. I think that's
Yes.
something.
So does that come here as well?
Not anymore.
No,
But-
but we've
Well, it doesn't
we
exist.
featured that
Not
in the
anymore,
museum.
but if you want Talma Valley.
We have rotating, we have a supervisor of everything.
Where's your dad? Right behind you.
Yeah, he don't like pot, but
No.
I think that's an important.
Yeah, that was big.
Well, Tour de Pont was the largest bike race in North America.
Yeah.
And this was back in the 80s.
Lance Armstrong.
Yeah.
He won the event coming to the top of Beach twice. And it actually came 3 times. And it was the biggest show in town or anywhere else. And the reason we got it, they wanted to go to Grandfather Mountain, but Grandfather Mountain told them they couldn't accommodate all the demands. We had, how many people did we have to find bids for?
It was
500 or something?
Yeah, I was gonna say 700.
700, and then we had to feed them 3 meals.
We're always feeding them.
And ESPN come in with a big trailer and.
And we had to find a place for them all to spend the night. And Tim and I and another wonderful lady kinda had to worry about all that. And we don't, if we had to do it again, I don't think we could.
We would not.
And we might even say we wouldn't want to, but it brought a lot of notoriety to Beech Mountain. And, one of our mountain folks, Bill Elder, who had a property he was selling, you know that story? He got a call from, after seeing it, from where? Somewhere.
What you talking about?
Okay, this is real brother, right? But anyhow, Bill got a call from somebody that wanted to know about property for sale, and they were in Europe somewhere, and they'd seen this on TV. And not that we had any real estate sales from Europe, but at least, I mean, just to show you how far-reaching something could be. But anyhow, the two men that came up with the idea for the Georgia Pont, had a falling out with each other. And DuPont, in their contract somewhere, said everybody's gotta love one another. And so that ended it right there.
I remember with every bicycle was like 3 or 4 motorcycles with the guy filming.
Oh, yeah, it was just like the Tour de France.
Well, people still come on their bikes to wanna ride that up
Oh,
the
they ride the
mountain,
ramp.
from Banner to the top of the mountain.
still
But then they
do.
find out we have all these biking trails, so.
They used to be painted on the bark, on
That's
the
on the side.
parkway.
Yeah.
They're more the,
Places that is training.
they're like the more, bent over, with the helmet and.
Yeah,
Okay.
tight
Yeah,
bikes.
real tight.
Yeah, road bikes.
Road bikes, yeah.
I'll tell you what, you see that around here with Lee's McCrae kids, they are flying.
It's all in this
Well, there's some
board.
there's some
Coming
runners from some
Rory.
college training for nationals, they came by my house like 5 times yesterday. I finally went out to the guy and said,
True.
we're training for nationals, we're from Colorado.
What, they're here?
They're here.
Well,
We usually get a lot of colleges towards the end of the summer
Right.
to run.
I won't say anymore, but Lance Armstrong, after his cancer battle, came back and rode Beech Mountain trying to decide whether he was going to continue being on bicycle and racing. And there's a long story, he wrote a book called It's Not About the Bike, and he included Beech Mountain, his story about that, and I won't take any more time on. I could spend about another 20 minutes on that story. But you gotta go home sometime, folks. I'll try to quit talking, I'm sorry.
So, okay, so, but here's what this kind of reminded me about stuff. Some of our master plans, what we do really well is looking at all the little details and weaving it all together, you know?
Right.
And it's lots of little things, and they all add up to a really, really livable, kind of destination. And it requires, there's a lot of kit of parts and moving parts and thinking about things. But every now and then, there's like one big idea for like one big thing that just basically raises the community up above everybody else. In terms of their exposure and reputation. Like, when y'all did the bicycle thing. And so, that's not, if y'all want, if there's something like that y'all have in mind, that, all of a sudden, I guess the Land of Oz was one thing y'all always been known for, but something that, is just part of your brand. I don't know if that's the right term either. But, think about that too. This is a time for us to dream big, and we'll work out all the little stuff too.
The problem is little bikers or inexperienced bikers they can't make it up the mountain, and the traffic is just horrendous anymore, so it's not a safety thing.
Yeah.
To really put
No,
it.
it's like.
We used to have, what was the one with the,
The metric.
that did like we did 3 races in the count, the bicycle things. What was it, metric? Yeah.
But there are towns that do like a particular festival,
Like Banner Oaks,
and stuff like
that's
that.
Banner Oaks.
Yeah, like Austin started South by Southwest, there's just things like that.
That's their thing, that's their thing.
Yeah,
The beach doesn't really have that one-off, I would say, in my opinion, if I'm wrong.
But if you had 2 ways up the mountain, you could do something like that, but you could block off one.
Right.
And then you'd also have a safety thing with regards to 2 ways of
Think big.
May I plant 2 seeds?
Yeah.
raising a family here, I needed a place to throw birthday parties during November and February. And asking families who are not familiar with Beech Mountain to drive here, we did it. We had a really awesome Nerf party here in this room. But these families were terrified and would not come back.
Terrified of the.
Oh, yeah.
To drive.
Oh, yeah. People
If
who
you're
are
not
out of
used to
town?
this, you don't.
It was like a day trip? They would drive up. and
So
back?
it was for my kids,
Now,
their
they
school.
spend, okay, so it was like
So the
during,
school
they didn't
kids
spend the night though?
No.
Okay, yeah, that's
And
a
then
lot to ask.
The others,
Yeah.
so thinking about, raising families with
Yeah.
recreation too, not just HFers, raising our families with the recreation. And then number two, we have seen winters where we couldn't ski. And we need the idea for recreation when the ski slope is not able to operate.
Because it was too.
There was
too-
one, Christmas, New Year's where we didn't have snow. The slopes were open, we were not able to open because there was not enough snow. And grandfather was over 100% occupancy that week.
Because
sucked.
they did have snow, but you didn't, or?
There was no skiing activities
Okay.
in any of the resorts, so they found all the other outlets.
It's never cold enough to have.
And so the people over grandfather, they could go trails or whatever it was.
They went and visited the Mile High Swinging Bridge
That's
and all
one of
that
the
good
biggest
stuff.
days they ever had.
Yeah.
So we didn't have any other reason for people to come see us.
That's a really, really interesting observation, so.
So that was what I mentioned yesterday,
Yeah.
there's nowhere for kids to have birthday parties around here, and, Jen and I have spoken about that over the years,
Well, that might be incorporated in that plan for the, y'all were talking about earlier, that previously used building, create a space for special events.
We hadn't told them about the hill climb, have we?
Yeah.
The roots are in?
Oh,
Okay, well, you're lucky. But we had a sports car hill climb, Beach Day one at Chimney Rock.
Okay.
That was a big, big deal.
Yeah.
And Chimney Rock being private at that time before it became a state park, they decided they didn't want to do it anymore for insurance reasons. So the Sports Car Club of Western came to us and asked us if we'd be interested. So it was an interesting deal, and they had to get the state of North Carolina to allow them to come from the ski slope entrance. The finish line was in front of my store, and we did it, I don't know,
2 or 3 years.
2 or 3
Yeah, it
years.
was 3 or 4 years.
Okay.
I know it's at least 3, I think. 4.
Yeah, okay, maybe it was.
Until
It
you
was
get back, I
always
did.
the first weekend in May, or supposed to be, because that
It
was.
was real downtown
Hump
for us.
season, it was,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, the last weekend in April, no tourism here, it was to bring tourists. But and the people didn't like it because they had to close the parkway, and
Yeah.
there's
They make
just
a
no
lot of noise.
alternatives.
Make a lot of noise, yeah.
Well,
And
Fred,
then we
you,
also had a tub race.
you need to tell them about circus, have you told them that?
We started on Pinnacle and ended up at Beech Mountain Club.
Wow, in a bathtub?
And we had,
A tub?
no, we had a bed race.
No, but that was, we had the tub race too.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah. Well, it was,
So is there anything y'all haven't done?
We try it. Then there was garbage truck parades too.
yeah, we did, well, here I said I wasn't gonna talk anymore. We got the new garbage truck, we came into incorporated town, and I remember it cost something like $80,000, and you can imagine that sport. We had a local guy picking up garbage before, his name was Ed Hardy, and Grover Robbins, the man that developed, had given Ed Hardy his slogan for his truck. It said, satisfaction guaranteed, or double your trash bag. That was on all of his trucks. But, so we had to buy a garbage truck, and so we got Khaki Hanley, he was one of the council people, to break a bottle of MD 2020 over the Chris of the truck. But we decided we needed to kind of make a big deal of it. So we had a garbage truck parade, and we had 5 garbage trucks come to be in it. that came from as far as Abingdon, Virginia. And we gave every garbage truck that came a prize for being in the parade. One was the smelliest truck, one was the cleanest truck, the one that came from furthest away. But then we had a big deal up on top of the mountain where we had an open space, and we cooked hot dogs and gave to everybody, and the way you come and get fed was to bring a bag of street garbage. That was your admission.
We continue that all day.
But anyhow,
Garbage and a hot dog.
it was good though, and, but we had 3 TV stations flying in helicopters to cover it. So anyhow, we had a radio station from Los Angeles call that morning of it to want to know what it was all about. So,
I'm surprised that Today Show.
they would maybe today.
Circus came to town.
You rode all the way out from Banner Elk to Red Dell?
No, we rode them back down. But the trucks from the circus weren't heavy duty enough to pull them up the hill. So they came up and they let them out down there where that big paved area is, and they walked them up the mountain from there to the Welcome to Beech Mountain sign. And I'm here to tell you, the elephants didn't even breathe hard. When they got to the top of that point, and I just happened to have a position within the town, and so all the people wanted me to welcome, and we did a whereas deal, welcoming the Friday Old Brother Circus. And then the trainer said, what's the quickest way to get down to the ski slope? It was in the ski slope parking lot. And so I said, well, just go down the ski slope. So the elephants went down the ski slope. But when they came back, they brought them back. It was on Labor Day. The last show was at something like 2 o'clock Labor Day afternoon. And they brought them up the Beech Mountain Parkway from the ski slope, and they came to my store. And I had become friends with this nice little black man that was the real trainer of the elephants. But they had a family that rode, and I did all the other stuff. But so he came up to the store and he said, here, Fred, he said, I'm gonna get the elephants to sit here if you wanna take a picture. So we had all the elephants sit on their haunches and right in front of the store. And have y'all got that Beech Mountain history book?
The history
book.
Well, the Historical Society produced about 15 years ago now, a history book of Beech Mountain. So, and it starts where Indians were here, and we have 7 chapters or 8 chapters. And, it takes you through the whole series.
But anyhow, they wanted to take the elephants back down to Banner Elk in front of Lee McCray College. They lined up the tractor trailer trucks to load them on and haul them. They were going to Johnson City or Bristol or somewhere. And so this nice guy that I'd become friends with, he said, Freddie, you ever ridden an elephant? And I said, no, I don't think I have. He said, well, we need you to ride one down to Banner Elk. Well, and he ended up getting 2 or 3, there were 8 elephants altogether. And so he took off on the lead elephant, and they had, touched the tail back all the way to Banner Elk. And it drizzled just enough to kind of make the head up there where I had to hold on to the ears. So it drizzled enough just to make them kind of a little muddy and a little nasty on top. And so we get down to Banner Elk, and my wife said she'd come down and pick me up. So I got off the elephant, and Margie drives up beside me. And she said, wait a minute, you're not getting in the car. Because the seat of them were really, really bad. And I said, well, what do you want me to do? And she she told me to go behind the Leach McCray sign and take my pants off. And she wasn't gonna let me in the car, so I had to ride up the hill with my, anyhow, we didn't stop anywhere. But I got home and I said, what do you want me to do with them? And she pointed to the garbage can. So I took her clothes. But we've had a lot of interesting experiences.
There's a storytelling festival up there in that area where, next to where the ski slopes are, I mean, the sledding hill is.
Okay, storytelling.
Story, but
Like a circle of.
storytelling festival by Ray Hicks.
That's something I'd like to see come back.
That's pretty cool.
Jonesboro is.
Can I say something I
Yeah.
don't wanna see come back?
Yeah.
I don't want Narnia to come back.
Oh,
No, no.
I'm just saying, we can set limits,
Narnia,
right?
yes. Oh, that was wild.
We'll tell you Friday.
I think we-
If there ain't PG stories now.
I didn't have anything to do with that.
That's just so wild.
Yeah.
And we come up with ideas we don't normally get shot down.
That's a pretty tame idea.
So we're pretty lucky to be able to come up with events now, so we look pretty tame compared to you guys.
Yeah.
So it's nice, we get a lot of leeway, less time, we are such a weird area. So we're kids, or pops with kids.
You've got an outdoor venue there now.
I would like to know, like, if people are doing
Hi, I'm Jana, Jana Greer. Pat Anderson. Yes.
Oh, did it?
They're here now.
Listen, I'm giving you a big one to tell your therapist.
All the way down.
I have a 14 and 13-year-old.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, please drive.
You talk, we'll listen.
So we took her out driving. She said, I love it. Just need to get comfort. You were scared.
Our ski resort in the summer has an unbelievable concert series that's on, it's a ski resort one, everything through, that's where Narnia came in a long time ago. That was, they don't do that anymore. But they're awesome, we've had Sheryl Crow come, we have some top name events.
Good draw.
It's a great draw for the town, it brings in, people rent houses, they're here for the weekend. They come from Atlanta in their tube tops and little short shorts and get up here and go, oh my gosh, I need winter clothes. They have no idea that it's gonna be cold,
Yeah.
chilly compared to what they're at, and, it's an amazing 3 weekends, right?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
What is a full weekend, right?
Well, it's only 2 days, Friday
2
and
days,
Saturday.
they're 2 days this year, last year they did 3, and then 2 other one-day events. But they're amazing how many people they bring
And
in.
they're looking up 4,000 people this year.
Definitely for the
It's
first weekend, cause it's been
awesome.
sold out and they just won an ACM award.
And Red Clay's.
It's really awesome.
Sheryl Crow.
Yeah,
They
great.
hold this entirely at the,
That's what
ski
the
resort.
ski resort.
And they say
Right on the
that,
mountain.
they say people just sit on the ski slopes.
That's right.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And they also have, they have the national downhill bike racing.
We got that
mountain.
coming, yeah.
And there's,
Coming back.
Yes,
There's a lot
first
of
weekend in
stuff coming.
June.
No, that's downhill southeast.
Yes, that's South
We
Dakota,
had the
yeah.
Yeah,
But
that's,
that's
that's different than US
what
Nationals.
Carol was
We had the
talking about
collegiate
was the
nationals
nationals.
And they go on the ski slopes as well?
Yes.
Yeah, so the downhill mountain bike is at the resort, they, had US, nationals back in 2010 and 11, I think.
Yeah,
And then-
yeah, that's right.
Then right after that, they had collegiate nationals.
Where did-
Typically that
where-
goes from.
So do people just stay down at the Best Western and Banner Elk?
Yeah.
Oh, no,
No, a lot of
basically,
people
yeah.
say-
They rent
Yeah.
In
houses.
Airbnbs, they all just, you
Yeah,
just like
or the,
fill them up.
Or the real estate people that rent still,
Yeah.
a few.
Well, it's been, I mean, it's amazing all the stuff you do, it sounds like you have have something almost every weekend. And so then, well, maybe your theme is, your big idea is that you just do pretty much, you celebrate and have festivals for pretty much everything.
Yesterday, I was
Yeah,
thinking.
kind of quirky ones too.
Programming,
Quirky.
bring people in.
Yeah.
It's not, it's that they want to just live and stay all the time, but we've already been up here. SDRs are, but for us.
Y'all really do function as kind of a resort where you're programming a lot of stuff and activities for people to visit. And I think the statistic is that, 77%.
Yes, I did see that.
There was a number of how many people were, is it permanent versus just the rentals, or is that?
Oh, yeah, I knew it was, Aaron, it's 77%?
77% of the homes here are seasonal homes.
Or seasonal.
Yes.
And y'all basically have y'all done a good job of programming towards attracting that type of thing.
Exactly right, all these festivals help us fill up those homes.
Well, if you're trying to, bring more activity up here, I mean, glumming off, down in Banner Elk, they have, almost every weekend, I mean, it's once a month, I think, something like that, but they'll have, art festivals that bring in a lot of people, but if you can bring a lot of people from there up to here and kind of glum onto what they're doing, that might be another way to create some synergy.
Yeah.
Because, they're attracting people and then you can attract people. The extra 12 minutes up the mountain.
A series of ones that you.
Fred has an art festival every year, the 1st of August. It used to coincide with our firemen's, a huge fireman festival we had for the weekend, and we had golf tournaments and tennis tournaments, and lots of fun going on, all to benefit our firemen. I think they enjoy
Mountain bike road,
So probably every one of you probably has been on some committee or some festival,
Yes.
or the hat you wear.
Yeah. You're looking at it.
Now, which one are you wearing? Cause I do want to pass it.
I don't want that hat.
Like, wait, we'll check it back here too.
Jana's pretty good at it too. Jana who? Jana who?
Where's that hat at?
Trespass. If you were really nice to her, she might show you the plaque up there.
Okay.
They're looking for it. You wanna know where the top of the mountain is?
What did the t-shirt say, what was the annual year that they see asked about? 39 annual papers?
Oh, we're.
Yeah, what did he say? Every year it says the same thing.
You tell, you work there.
I work there.
At the store, you're talking about a t-shirt.
We had t-shirts for every
She was
night.
saying something
But
about.
this is the 4th of July pig roast.
Yeah.
The pig roast.
47th annual.
Yeah, for years, everybody bought the same shirt over and over again, 47th annual.
Because we didn't want to change the design, we just called it the 47th annual right from the 5th one we had. So we could sell the same shirts next year that we didn't get rid of. And finally, we got to the 47th, we actually had 50.
Isn't this your 51? 55?
That was a genius.
55?
I thought that was a brilliant idea.
Yeah.
It started in the front yard.
So if anybody in this room wants to volunteer, we need you.
We should call it 147.
Started
So
as
now we can just order shirts for girls. I like this.
99. 99 bottles.
Well, y'all have a lot of fun here, that's for sure.
Well, we wanna keep doing it, but we need your help to kinda figure out how to get people up here maybe, and what we're gonna do with them in the meantime, when they're up here to satisfy.
I know you with no shortage of ideas from you guys.
Yes, but the ideas we keep coming up with, Fred just keeps being the master of ceremony. Guy.
I'm writing about
For the
parade
47th
route.
time,
For
right?
the 47th.
Parade route for the garbage truck parade.
Well, we have a parade and it does have all public works.
It has garbage trucks, so it's still.
Yep, they decorate. Santa Claus drives a garbage truck and.
It's really a cool parade.
Yeah.
Well, the reason we didn't do the garbage anymore, person on the mountain See if we'll see anybody around. Told us it wasn't dignified enough. Talk about the garbage, so we cut it out. But anyhow.
We do a recycling parade.
There you go.
Well, the Christmas parade, that's what you call it.
It's like,
Still going on.
Yeah.
In fact, you can pick up that little
Thank y'all.
Is there anything else you like to bring? That was a fun conversation. All right.
Any more great ideas, remember that the boards are out there in the rock, stick them up, they need to be more bring back the garbage or break the.
Really, clear here for other meetings.
I was there this morning and left at lunchtime, and I might take everything to the store mirrors. But being on the recreation committee, I thought that and I heard y'all on the transportation talk about, some kind of lift from the bottom down rail up here. And I don't know whether anybody mentioned, but, Sepp Munder, who was a Swiss guy that came in to run the ski slopes through the bank and during the bankruptcy. Well, he also worked for Doppelmayr Lift Company as an engineer, and so he came up with this great idea to do one from the airport at Battle Elk to the top of the mountain, but it didn't fly.
That would be interesting. That would give kids coming up for birthday parties, they can ride.
Big kids too.
Get an elephant.
Is it really that much, or is that kind of?
Here's Walter, that's his big, he always says that, let's get a gondola.
How about a funicular?
Well, that's basically what we're.
Is that what y'all talking about?
Gondolas are the aerial.
The
Ours
gondolas
is an
above.
aerial deal, he was talking
Funiculars
about.
on the, we don't have the property for that
Yeah, we
unless
don't.
we did it at the power lines.
Yeah.
Couldn't come up with
They
the word.
wouldn't let you.
You'd have to go through a lot of backyards doing it otherwise,
You know,
up
when I
Beech
was,
Mountain.
when I was a kid, I lived in a town that was an unincorporated village on Long Island, New York. And I could ride my horse through anybody's property, anywhere I wanted. I wasn't allowed to walk through it though. I could be arrested, but I could ride my horse. It was an equestrian town, and I could literally get on that horse and just ride right through it was unbelievable. And we didn't have bags to pick up the poop. It was just very, very open to the horses.
Roanoke had our hometown, Roanoke had an incline. They call it the incline, but it was a finish.
Oh, cool.
And started at the base of the mountain, you know, we had the star on top, the big neon star.
Right.
And so they put that was in the 1920s, and there was a big dance hall up there.
Oh, cool.
And then also a children's zoo. And so everybody, this was before people were driving, and they would just walk, and they would, go up the incline, then go to the dances at night. It's my grandfather.
And slide down.
I know they'd go ride back, yeah, they could, that would be fun, a big super slide, I guess. I'd want a bike to a volcano hike in Guatemala, and you just slide down the ashes on the way back. Takes you like 2 hours to go up in 20 minutes.
We do a side slide on the sledding hill in the summertime, which is really, Sean's little one